All right, it's December 21st, 2021. We're here with Iain Blakeley. He's the president of the Royal New Zealand Pipe Band Association, which has been up to doing some new things. Got a new logo, new approach, some changes afoot. Thanks, Iain, for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Andrew.
And for people out there, I mean, the Royal New Zealand Pipe Band Association is one of the world's oldest. Predates the RNZPBA in Scotland, for example. It was started in 1928 as the Highland Pipe Band Association of New Zealand, and is going strong today, one of the more vibrant communities, pipe band communities in the world, as people have seen over the years, with a thriving grade 1 and grade 2 and all the grades, really, competitive environment. So Iain, thanks again. And maybe, what's changing regarding the Royal New Zealand Pipe Band Association?
Look, I wouldn't want to give the impression that there's some sort of radical, reform underway. As far as we're concerned, what's happening is that this is just part of a journey that we've been on for some time. We are always trying to improve ourselves and always trying to find new ways to engage. I guess the one thing that hasn't changed is that the burning platform for us, which is membership. And we've tried a number of things in the past to drive membership up, and this has been a challenge for us since the early 80s, when New Zealand society changed dramatically, and pipe bands and the military tradition and those sorts of activities were not, as a society opened up, were no longer as embedded within our society as they used to be. So, we used to have hundreds of pipe bands, and we used to have, we'd have thousands of people turn up just to watch bands play at a competition. And nowadays, that's not the case. And, we struggle to get that engagement in the public. So that has been a challenge, and we haven't really found a way to reverse that trend. And so our memberships stayed static for a long time now. We've got really good at teaching, and I think band quality has improved, but we just haven't got the numbers up, and we're not growing as a movement. So what has changed is the technology that's allowed us to maybe shift course in how we engage with younger people. We know, I've read the studies, we know young people learn about music, they develop their musical tastes in different ways nowadays. Much is the same, but also much has changed, and it's a challenge for all acoustic instruments, I believe, that young people are just not picking them up in the ways that they used to. So we've got to find a way to deal with that and be more relevant. So a few years ago we started a much more digital journey, and we started with our housekeeping in the house, just using technology and digital, and how we managed the association, how we managed our databases, how we managed our finances, and then we've progressed to how we communicate with our internal stakeholders, and then externally as well. How do we communicate? And then there's the whole, the whole process around, or not process, but the whole, the social media world as well, and how we use that and capitalize that. And we're just scratching the surface. So a year or two ago, we built a digital platform that we call the Digital Hub. That gave us a new way of, making decisions, running surveys, voting, communicating with members, getting, emails out to individual band members, not just to band secretaries. And so we strengthened our community a bit. We got a bit closer that way. And the hub's made us more efficient. It saved us money. The amount of money we've saved in postage has been huge. It saved the way that we communicate. It's changed the way we communicate. So it saved us a lot of money. And so building on that, a rebrand was a next step. and we're really fortunate to have input from Rob Dutoit, who's was a member of the Auckland District Pipe Band in Auckland, but lives in South Africa and is heavily involved in the South African scene, and he's a branding and marketing guy, and he sort of volunteered his time and came up with some great ideas and worked with our team internally, and we think that what we've come up with is something that we hope is it's more modern. It's something that young people can identify with more easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's more attractive. So that the rebranding is it's not everything, right? It's a change of clothing, but it's important, and particularly if we see it as a start to allowing us to engage more direct, and engage better and be more relevant
So
with young people.
yeah, so it sounds really interesting, and it seems like obviously the world, the pipe band world, the entire world has been under COVID-19 situation since 2020. It seems like maybe the RNZPBA had a head start on the technology side of things. Do you think it was fortuitous that way, in that lockdown situations that may or may not have hit New Zealand? You've got the technology infrastructure to take advantage of some of these needed changes?
I can't really speak, for the position of other associations, but in terms of us, we're not particularly gifted in technology or anything like that, and we have to scratch around and find the skills and the expertise, and we've been really fortunate to have people with a technology background involved, like Alistair McGregor, who's passionate about using technologies. He's got a technology background in his business life, so that's helped drive it. But honestly, the best ideas come from the bands themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Bands and individual pipers and drummers have reacted and pivoted during lockdowns and so on, and with online competitions and online practices, online teaching. It's not us as an association that's done that. It's been the individual bands and individual members, and we've just our role really is to help it happen, but make sure we're using the technology as best we can to do what we do, which is we see ourselves as having three primary purposes. One is to grow the number of pipe bands in the country. The other is to improve the quality of our bands to the extent we can, and the third is to build a sustainable pipe band community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that, we measure everything we do as an association against those three things.
Yeah, interesting to keep it simple. And from what I know about the association, is you're quite nimble. In fact, you have only 3 members of your board, and seem to be quite allow you to do things fairly quickly, perhaps. What sorts of changes, you've talked about the rebranding, but what else will you be doing with the technology and initiatives, either now or that we might look forward to in the future?
Yeah, so going alongside the rebranding, is we've invested heavily in some new technology to allow us to produce more content, video content, recordings, for mainly aimed initially at recruitment. So we're going to use, we've got some good programs. Our National Youth Band is probably our primary opportunity to leverage youth to try and attract more youth. And they're a high quality, high performing group of young people who travel around the country performing. And we're already we've started to use their performances and their presence out and about, to try and encourage or create content that can then be rolled out through social media channels to encourage more people to listen to our music and get turned on by it. Yeah, so leveraging that, using technology to do so, producing the content, and I guess what was the question?
Well, the kinds of things that we can expect, or that you're
Mm.
doing right now, different ways to change the organization. It sounds like, from what you just talked about, being a little more proactive instead of waiting for people to come to you to, I want to learn, tell me how to learn. You're am I right in thinking that, you're proactively going out and encouraging people to sign up, to get interested, to hook them.
Yeah, look, so I mean, the association doesn't. We're an association of pipe bands. We don't teach piping and drumming. The bands do that.
Hmm.
So our member bands do that. So we use we use scale, and we use the collaboration of all the bands to fix things like the curriculum and agree on standards. So we do that, and we have some teaching programs. We have a summer school. We have a mentor program where we will pay for mentors to go out to bands who apply, and they'll go out to bands and work with bands and whatever area of pipe banding that they want some input from, whether it's something to do with finance or management or piping or drumming or bass drumming, whatever it is, drill. The band, they'll submit what they're looking for, and we'll link them up with some schools, and that's something we as an association can do because we've got some scale, and we can get access to funds that bands may struggle to find.
Hmm.
But other than that, we don't take on learners and run learner programs for kids, but we do have a role. One of our purposes in the association is to promote pipe bands to the wider community. We have a role to ensure that we are promoting bands, and we're encouraging people to join pipe bands, and we're doing everything we can to help our bands get out there in their communities and make a noise. So, we'll
Hmm.
produce recruitment material for them. We've already produced a recruitment video. We'll do some more of that sort of stuff that they can get out through their social channels, and to the more mainstream media and to schools. We'll send the youth band into regions around the country, and they'll work with local bands, and they'll go to schools, and they'll have concerts, and they'll perform in the community, and we'll make a lot of noise to the extent we can around that activity. So those are the sorts of things, and there's there'll be 100 different things we haven't thought of yet.
Yeah, it sounds like the association is more of as much as support group, to support the bands, to help them where they need it, rather than strictly just running competitions and, pay your dues and your entry fees, and we'll look after the rest. More kind of a partner in this than maybe what we see with some other organizations.
Yeah, well, only half of our bands compete. We've got a lot
Mhm.
of non-competing bands, and they're doing as much hard work on the ground in terms of encouraging, or being representatives of our craft, right? So, I think the association is simply a body that exists because of pipe bands. It doesn't exist in its own right; it only exists because of the bands, and we're there to serve the bands. They're our members; they own us. So, as I see it, I'm in my position because bands put me there, and I'm there to serve them. Simple as that. They
Mhm.
they expect me to have, to provide leadership and have ideas and have a strategy and keep a steady hand on the tiller, I guess. But ultimately, I'm there to help the bands and make their life easier. Otherwise, why would you have an association if it didn't make bands' lives easier? What's
Exactly.
the point,
Yeah.
right? So that's our role.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately,
That's just
that's a refreshing attitude to hear. Um, but fortunately for New Zealand, you've got that attitude, and it's interesting. You were president of the association for a good 12 years until 2016. Went back to compete to participate in pipe bands more directly as a piper, and then came back to the presidency in 2019. So it's interesting as you're still a young man for sure. But associations are typically run by older people, people in 50 plus. Um, but you seem ready for change. How are you? did you come back at it in 2019, recognizing the need for change and to be open-minded and to get more people like that around you?
Well, I've personally never thought we haven't needed to change. I think that's just a fact of life, that especially in a fast changing world, if you don't change, you die, so, or certainly if you don't adapt. Look, I'm in that 50+ age group for sure. I love change. I love new things. I don't like driving the same way to work every day. I just like doing things differently, and so that's my makeup. It tends to be my experience of other people who are around me in the association. They all embrace change. We absolutely respect the past, and I think if you don't, you miss out on some great opportunities, because people before us have changed the association. It's nothing new. It doesn't look anything like it did in 1928. It didn't, and in 1928 was a massive change. Just putting, giving birth to the association, that was hugely dramatic experience at that time. It was revolutionary in this country, and and then the association that I came onto in 2003 was totally different from what it was 20 years ago before that. So it's always changed, and I don't think the desire for change has much to do with age, in my view. I think it's more about a mindset.
For sure. Well, it sounds like the Royal New Zealand Pipe Band Association, you've got some good things going. You're ready to do things a little differently. Maybe you always have, and you seem to have the support of your members behind you. As you say, the membership is the association. But we'll really look forward to hearing more about things coming down the road for the association in the future, and look forward to staying in touch and reporting more on that.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. Yeah. I mean, we're no different from any other association, I suspect, in that we're driven by volunteers, right? We're all doing this. It's a hobby. We're doing it in our spare time. So that's a big constraint. It's also a benefit in some ways, I guess, but it's certainly a constraint on us. And for New Zealand, if we're going to have a massive step change here, we have to be more professional, and we need to find ways to create sustainable income streams so that we can invest more in the sorts of teaching programs that we'd like to invest in.
Well, that's exciting. It's we'll really look forward to the future and staying in touch. And Iain Blakeley, president of the Royal New Zealand Pipe Band Association, appreciate the time you took to share what's going on with the association with Pipestorm's readers and viewers around the world, and look forward to hearing more in the future. Thanks again.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.